I have to say, a lot of people, myself included, were very confused to see a belt around Kelvin Gastelum's shoulder at UFC 234 during the fight between Israel Adesanya and Anderson Silva, of course. But it seems to have worked out for the guy, if I'm being honest. I mean, he's got a fight with Israel Adesanya, the hottest fighter, up-and-coming fighter that's in the UFC right now. I mean, we've got Conor McGregor and what he's done for it. But he's been around for a while. Israel Adesanya is new. He's attracting new fans. He's not just attracting fringe fans that watch every now and then. I mean, the guy is truly going to be a superstar and has the makings for that. I just didn't see his next fight after Anderson Silva being against Kelvin Gastelum. I mean, we've got Jacare Souza, we've got Yoel Romero, we've got Luke Rockhold, Robert Whittaker, who had just got pulled out of a fight because of an abdominal hernia, something that's a very legitimate medical issue, and something that if he would have fought with, he could have very easily died, especially fighting someone like Kelvin Gastelum with such heavy hands and one-punch knockout power. I mean, the guy could have literally bursted his stomach open and killed Robert Whittaker. So we're very blessed that he didn't fight at UFC 234, and I'm glad he didn't, and I'm sure him and his family are very happy that he made that decision. But where does that let him now? I mean, Kelvin Gastelum's passing him up. Israel Adesanya is the next superstar for the UFC. So obviously, somewhere along the line, Israel's going to pass Robert as well. But we've got Kelvin Gastelum, I think he's currently 5. Number 5, Israel's number 6. We've got number 5 and number 6 fighting for an interim belt in April, when 1 through 4, I don't think Robert Whittaker would be ready to fight then. But I can't think of anything wrong with Jacare, Yoel, Luke Rockhold, any of those guys. I can't think of anything wrong with them that would stop them from being the next fight for Israel Adesanya, other than it being a bit of a tougher fight for him. I mean, if Israel fights any of those guys like Jacare, Yoel, or Luke Rockhold, I mean, those are very hard fights, and Kelvin Gastelum is as well. But maybe not as hard of a fight, and maybe that's why we saw Kelvin Gastelum with the belt around his shoulder. Maybe the UFC wants us to believe and to have in our heads that, okay, Kelvin deserves this belt because he didn't get the fight for it at 234. Now, of course, generally this is how it's went. I mean, you look at Tony Ferguson, someone who had a true legitimate medical issue as well. I mean, his whole leg had to be, it was basically reconstructed. I mean, he's got a metal bar in his shin now. The guy's a Terminator, and they stripped him when he had done everything in this world to earn that interim belt. So it's not surprising to me that they're stripping Robert Whittaker. What's surprising to me is the matchup they made with Israel Adesanya and Kelvin Gastelum next, kind of skipping over these other guys that common sense would kind of lead you to believe that they were next in line. They were going to have the next shot, and they were going to get this shot at the rising star, the superstar who is Israel Adesanya, which would lead to the title being on the line for the next fight after that. That's just not how it's played out, and the UFC seems to be making more and more moves like this. Very obscure fights that the fans want now. They want to see, they know it's going to be a great fight, or it's going to push the agenda of the fighter they're trying to push right now. So, for example, Israel Adesanya, it's very obvious that the UFC wants to get behind this kid and wants to put a big, very, very big marketing budget behind Israel Adesanya to kind of raise his stardom, which in turn is going to help the UFC's stardom and bring more fans in. So it's understandable why they made this fight. I just didn't see it coming. We'll put it that way. And I'm not sure if any of you all did either. Did you all think the next fight for Israel Adesanya was Kelvin Gastelum? I mean, was that even a thought in your all's head? I mean, they had the matchup on the same cards at UFC 234. You had Robert Whittaker and Kelvin Gastelum, and then Anderson Silva and Israel Adesanya. Now, you would think that the winner of those two fights would fight, and then that would be the interim title holder, which in turn would be fighting for the actual belt after that. That's not how it worked out. So I figured they would put Israel against the next the next in line, the number one contender for the title, which at this point right now is Yoel Romero, which would have been a great fight to see. I do think Israel wins that, and I think Israel wins the fight against Kelvin Gastelum. But tell me in the comments below, did you all really think that this was going to be the next fight for Israel Adesanya? Is Kelvin Gastelum? If not, tell me who you thought it was going to be, and we'll kind of go from there. It's going to be interesting to see how this story develops. I'm definitely going to be tuned in. I know a lot of people are, so it's going to be really interesting to see how the UFC plays this and what their next move is with Israel Adesanya after this Kelvin Gastelum fight, and with the middleweight division as a whole, to be honest. I mean, there's not too many names in there that are popping really big for pay-per-view buys right now, except Israel. So they're going to focus on that. I realize that. Everyone else realizes that. It's just, the question is, what do they do next? What's the next step after Kelvin Gastelum and Israel Adesanya? Who's fighting for the title? Who has the title? Is it a vacant title? Are they letting Robert Whittaker hold it, and then the winner of Kelvin Gastelum versus Israel Adesanya fights Whittaker? That's definitely an option. But at that point, if that's the case, why did Kelvin have the belt around his shoulders? So there's a lot of questions that need to be answered here. I definitely need help with them in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think. Also subscribe. About 80% of you guys that watch these videos aren't even subscribed to the channel. It would really help out more than you understand. So take 10 seconds out of your day, press that subscribe button. Definitely let me know what you think of the videos, how I can improve, what you want to hear about next, and we'll go from there. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day.